I only paid 40 bucks for this set of Shimano GRX gravel wheels. How'd I get them so cheap? They were sold parts only, and they really aren't rideable wheels. The rear wheel, it's missing 2 spokes, and it's got a large gouge in the rim that looks suspiciously like it was done with a grinder and a cutoff wheel. And the front wheel, it's in better shape cosmetically and in good shape physically, but the bearing and the hubs are shot. So when you spin the hubs, it feels like they're rolling in gravel. I think these wheels are salvageable. I think with a little bit of work, we can actually make this a usable wheel set again. In today's video, we are going to do just that. We're going to try and fix these wheels and put them back in service. If that interests you, let's get started. As I mentioned, the rear wheel is missing 2 spokes. These are Shimano's special semi-aero spoke. I went to see if I could find these spokes online. Shimano doesn't sell them anymore, but you can still find them on the internet. They aren't expensive, but I couldn't find anyone in the US who actually had them in stock. Instead, I bought a cheap set of universal spokes. I think I got 15 of them for 13 bucks. These are just a regular straight pull spoke. They're generic, they're not branded. These are 297 millimeters long. I pulled one of the spokes out of the wheel and measured it, and that's how I got the length. These are not aero, they don't match the profile of the other spokes, but I don't think that's going to be a problem. This is the nipple I removed from the wheel. There's nothing special about it. It's a 14 gauge nipple, it's 16 millimeters long. The only thing though is it's got this conical washer attached to it. And what this washer does is it spreads the load when this is tightened into the wheel. The nipples I have, they do not have that. So the area that contacts the hole in the rim is much smaller. I'm worried if I just use these the way they are that eventually they'll either pull through or crack the rim. So I went down to my local hardware store and for 68 cents, I bought a pack of number 4 brass washers. As they set, they will not fit over the spoke and they're flat, they're not contoured. But for 68 cents, a little bit of work, I think we can make them fit. This is an M6 nylock nut. I just had it around the shop. Those number 4 brass washers fit in there just perfectly. This is a 3/32 inch punch. This is the one I use for knocking divots in steel before I drill it. If we put the punch into the center of the washer, and we drive it in, it will do 2 things. It will open up the end of that to the right diameter, and it will bend a cone shape into the end of the washer. That brass washer fits over the spoke perfectly, and now it's got the correct contour to work with the wheel. It's also the exact same width that the original Shimano washer is. So I think those will work. The cheap straight pull spokes fit into the hubs just fine. I used a second spoke to push the nipple through the rim and threaded it onto the spoke. I put a light tension on both spokes. I know you guys will be surprised to hear, but I don't own a wheel stand. Trust me, it's true. Instead, I just use an old frame and some zip ties. I used a tension gauge for the first go round, and then I fine-tuned the truing by listening to the zip ties. I went around the wheel adjusting spoke tension as necessary until the wheel was true. I'm calling this good enough. It's about 1/2 millimeter wobble still, but after it breaks in, I think I'm going to have to retrue it anyway, so we'll worry about it then. I mentioned earlier that the rear wheel has a big gouge in the rim. It really does look like this was done with an angle grinder. To fix this, I started by sanding to feather the paint. I then mixed some 2-part filler and filled in the gouge. I sanded it to shape with some 120 grit sandpaper and gave it 2 coats of Krylon textured black. This is my favorite paint for bike parts as it replicates a factory finish. So that's nearly it for the rear wheel. I have a plan to fix the front wheel, but it's a little sketchy. I disassembled the hub and removed the bearings. The right hand bearing is in good shape. The left hand bearing, not so much. The balls were rusty and both races severely pitted. This is why the bearings felt so bad. New bearings are way too expensive and just not in the budget. So instead, I reground the races. I used a sharpening stone in the Dremel, spun the race in the lathe, and ground the surface until the pitting was removed. I did the inner race exactly the same way. I only removed enough material to remove the pitting. I then polished the surface with some 600 grit sandpaper soaked in oil. The resulting surface isn't perfect, but it's much better. I replaced all the balls for both sides. There were 32 in total. I gave them a coat of heavy-duty grease and I reassembled the hub. Here's the front wheel after grinding the races and installing new balls. It spins quite nicely and it feels smooth. I realize this is not a precise solution. It really is kind of a last resort repair when bearings aren't available or you really don't have any other option. It's a crude method, but I've found that it does work. I finished the wheel set by installing new rim tape and fitting new valve stems. The one I used on the rear is green. It's just because that's what I had on hand. These wheels didn't have their spacers, so I designed and printed some new ones. I then installed a pair of American Classic Kimberlite tires. These are 700C by 40. They've got a really good tread pattern and do really well on fast gravel. I inflated the tires to 70 psi to seat the beads. Those last couple pops, they always scare me. These wheels turned out great. I'm really happy with the result. I've now got a really nice set of gravel wheels and they didn't cost me much money. I spent $40 on the wheel set and another $13 on the spokes. Performance Bike will sell you the same wheels today for $450. $53, you can't beat that. I don't know how long these wheels are going to last, but time will tell. If you don't have a lathe but you want to do the same thing, I see no reason why you couldn't use a drill press. This video is part of a larger build. I'm trying to see if I can make a mid-level gravel bike for under $800. That's why I focus so much on cost in this video. If you're interested in seeing a budget gravel build, that video should be out in a couple of weeks. I'm still filming it, but keep an eye out for it. So that's it for today. Until next time, I'll see you guys later.